Have you ever had words come back to haunt you? The kind that echo in your mind during quiet moments, that play on repeat in your dreams, that you would give anything to take back. It's just two small words. I can't. Spoken impatiently on a spring morning, in response to a simple request. But since that day, those words have become the most painful regret of my life. My name is Thomas. I'm 31, and this begins on an ordinary April morning. The kind where spring sunlight streams through windows, where coffee brews in the kitchen, where the day ahead feels full of mundane tasks and minor obligations. The kind of morning you'd never mark as significant, the kind you'd never imagine would become the dividing line of your existence. Lily and I had been together for 5 years, engaged for the last 2. The wedding was scheduled for October. The plans were made, deposits paid, invitations designed but not yet sent. We'd built a life together in our small apartment, finding joy in simple routines and shared dreams of the future. That morning was like any other weekday. Alarm at 6:30, shower, coffee, the familiar choreography of 2 people getting ready for work in a shared space. Me rushing, as always. Lily moving at her more deliberate pace, as she always did. I was running late for an important client meeting, my phone already buzzing with texts from colleagues wondering where I was. Keys in hand, laptop bag over shoulder, mind already in the conference room where I should have been 15 minutes ago. Lily was still in her robe, coffee mug in hand, leaning against the kitchen counter. "Do you have to leave right this second?" she asked as I moved toward the door. "I'm already late," I replied, checking my watch for the 3rd time in as many minutes. "Johnson is flying in just for this meeting." She nodded, taking a sip of her coffee. Something in her expression made me pause, a shadow of worry, of hesitation that wasn't typically there. "Everything okay?" I asked, hand already on the doorknob. "Yeah," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. I wanted to talk about something, but it can wait until tonight." I glanced at my phone again. 3 new messages. "I'm sorry, but I really have to go. We'll talk later, I promise." She nodded again, offering a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Okay, good luck with your meeting." I was halfway out the door when she spoke again, her voice softer. "Thomas?" I turned back, impatience flaring. "What?" "Wait for me, will you?" she whispered, the request laden with a meaning I couldn't decipher in my hurry. "Just wait for me, please." It seemed like such a strange thing to say. Wait for what? She wasn't coming with me. She had her own job to get to, her own schedule to keep, and I was already late for the most important meeting of my quarter. "I can't," I said, the words clipped with frustration. "I really have to go. We'll talk tonight." And then I was gone, jogging to my car, mind already rehearsing my opening remarks, the strange request forgotten almost as soon as it was made. The meeting went well. The client impressed, the contract secured, my position at the firm strengthened. By afternoon, I was riding the high of professional success, mentally composing how I'd tell Lily about it over dinner. Maybe we'd celebrate with a nice bottle of wine, the one we'd been saving for a special occasion. At 3:17 p.m., my phone rang. I stepped out of a follow-up meeting to answer, seeing Lily's number on the screen. "Hey," I answered, still buoyant from the morning's success. "You'll never guess how well the Johnson meeting went." But it wasn't Lily's voice that responded. It was her sister Kate, her words coming in broken fragments, making no sense at first. "Thomas, where are you?" she asked, her voice strange and tight. "At work," I replied, confusion giving way to concern. "Why do you have Lily's phone? What's wrong?" "You need to come to Memorial Hospital," she said. "Right now." "It's Lily." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. What happened? Is she okay? A pause, heavy with meaning. "Just come now. Please hurry." I don't remember the drive to the hospital. Don't remember parking or running through emergency room doors or following the nurse's directions to the correct floor. Everything exists in my memory as fragments, disconnected images without continuity. Kate in the waiting room, eyes red and swollen. Her husband Bill beside her, face grim, doctors speaking in hushed tones, words that didn't make sense together. Sudden, unexpected, nothing more we could do. And then the worst words of all, "I'm sorry for your loss." Loss. As if Lily was a set of keys, a wallet, something misplaced that might eventually be found again. Not the woman I loved, the future I had planned, the center around which my world revolved. The next hours unfolded in a fog of disbelief and mounting horror. Medical terms I didn't understand, forms I signed without reading, decisions no one should have to make at 31. It wasn't until late that night, sitting alone in our apartment, now just my apartment, that her final request came back to me with devastating clarity. "Wait for me, will you?" And my response, impatient and dismissive, "I can't." What had she known? What had she been trying to tell me? What conversation had she wanted to have that I had postponed for a meeting that now seemed utterly meaningless? I tore through the apartment, looking for clues, for a note, for anything that might explain her mysterious request that morning. In the bathroom, I found a prescription bottle I didn't recognize, dated just a week earlier. In her desk drawer, medical paperwork with terms I had to Google, each search revealing a more frightening reality. She had known, had been keeping it from me, perhaps waiting for the right moment, had tried to create that moment that morning, only to have me brush her off for a client meeting. I wanted to talk about something, but it can wait until tonight. Except it couldn't wait, and now there would be no tonight, no conversation, no chance to hear what she had wanted to say, to hold her through the fear she must have been feeling, to face together whatever she had been preparing to tell me. In the days that followed, more pieces fell into place. Her sister Kate revealed that Lily had been experiencing symptoms for months, but had kept them private, not wanting to worry me during an important time in my career. Had finally seen a specialist 2 weeks ago. Had received results just days before. "She was going to tell you everything that morning," Kate said, her voice hollow with grief and something else. Accusation. She'd finally worked up the courage. The weight of those words crushed what remained of my heart. I had failed Lily when she needed me most, had prioritized a meeting over the woman I loved, had dismissed her plea to wait with a casual, "I can't," not understanding what she was really asking. The memorial service passed in a blur of faces and voices and well-meaning platitudes that did nothing to ease the specific agony of my regret. I stood beside her photograph, accepting condolences from people who didn't know the truth, that I had chosen wrong in our final moment together, that I hadn't been there when it mattered most. After everyone had gone, I sat alone in our apartment, surrounded by evidence of the life we'd shared and the future we'd planned. Wedding invitations, never sent. Travel books for the honeymoon we'd never take. A registry full of gifts no one would ever buy. On the coffee table lay her journal, the one she wrote in every evening before bed. I hesitated to open it, feeling like an intruder in her private thoughts, but I needed to understand. Needed to know what she'd been carrying alone while I remained oblivious. The most recent entry was dated the night before that final morning. "I've decided to tell Thomas everything tomorrow. No more hiding behind 'I'm fine' or blaming my exhaustion on work stress. The specialist confirmed what I've suspected. Time isn't on my side." I've been so afraid of this conversation, of seeing the fear in his eyes, of becoming a burden rather than a partner. But he deserves to know. We deserve the chance to face this together, whatever happens. I'll catch him before he leaves for work. He has that big meeting, I know, but this can't wait any longer. I just hope he can forgive me for keeping this from him these past weeks. I was trying to protect him, but maybe that was wrong. Maybe I was really trying to protect myself from making it real by saying it aloud. I love him so much. Whatever time we have left, I want it to be honest. I want it to be together. The journal fell from my hands. She had been trying to protect me, had been carrying this weight alone, waiting for the right moment, had finally found the courage, only to have me shut her down, rush away. Choose a meeting over the most important conversation we would never have. "Wait for me," she had whispered, a final plea. "I can't," I had replied. Two small words that would echo in my mind forever. Two small words that summarized my ultimate failure, not just in that moment, but in all the moments leading up to it. When had I stopped noticing her? When had my career become more important than her well-being? When had I become the kind of person who couldn't wait 5 minutes for the woman he claimed to love? That night, I curled up on her side of the bed, face pressed into her pillow that still held her scent, and finally allowed the full magnitude of my loss and my responsibility to crash over me. Because the truth, the devastating truth, was that I hadn't just failed to wait for her that morning. I had been failing to truly be present with her for months, had been half listening, half attending, always with one foot out the door, one eye on the next meeting, one thought on the next promotion. And now there would be no more chances to do better. No opportunity to be the partner she deserved. No way to take back those two simple words that had become the epitaph of our relationship. I can't. But what I've learned since that terrible day is that I must wait for her now, even knowing she'll never return, must live with the daily ache of a conversation postponed that can never be recovered, must face each morning with the knowledge that I chose wrong when it mattered most. And I do. I wait, every day, for someone who will never come back. It's been 9 months since that April morning, 9 months of carrying those two small words with me, of hearing them echo in quiet moments, of waking from dreams where I chose differently, where I stayed, where I waited. Winter has arrived, bringing with it the first holiday season without Lily. Our apartment, my apartment now, looks different. I've donated her clothes, rearranged the furniture, taken down the wedding planning calendar that hung in the kitchen. Physical changes that do nothing to alter the emotional reality. I am still waiting, always waiting, for someone who will never return. The irony isn't lost on me. The cosmic reversal of our final exchange. She asked me to wait, and I couldn't. Now waiting is all I do, in all the ways that matter. I wait for the sound of her key in the lock each evening, for her side of the bed to dip as she climbs in beside me, for her voice calling from the shower, asking me to bring a towel she's forgotten, for her laughter at inside jokes no one else would understand. Kate noticed the change in me first. "You've stopped making plans," she observed during a rare visit to the apartment. "Your calendar used to be packed weeks in advance." "What's the point?" I replied, not meeting her eyes. "Nothing ever happens the way we expect." She was quiet for a moment, studying me with the same direct gaze Lily had possessed, the family resemblance still jarring in its echo of what I'd lost. "She wouldn't want this for you," Kate said finally, "this half-life, this waiting." But Kate didn't understand, couldn't understand. The waiting wasn't a choice, it was the only state possible now. The only way to hold on to the thread of what might have been, what should have been. My therapist, yes, I started seeing one, calls it complicated grief, intensified by regret and unresolved questions. She says I'm stuck in the moment of that final exchange, unable to move forward because I'm still trying to rewrite an ending that can't be changed. "You can't wait for Lily anymore," she tells me gently in our sessions, "but you can learn to carry her with you as you move forward. Move forward. As if there's a direction that leads away from this specific pain, as if there's a future that doesn't involve this endless waiting." 3 months ago, I took a leave of absence from the firm, the same firm I'd prioritized over Lily's final request. The career I'd placed at the center of my life, not realizing until too late what truly mattered. "You're our rising star," my boss said, bewildered by my decision. "The Johnson account alone secured your path to partnership." The Johnson account. The meeting I couldn't be late for, the reason I said those two unforgivable words. "I need time," was all I could tell him. Time to understand how I'd become someone who would make such a choice. Time to figure out if I could ever be anyone else again. In the quiet space of this leave, I've been doing the hardest work of my life, facing the truth of who I was in our relationship. Not the attentive, loving fiancé I'd imagined myself to be, but someone increasingly absent, even when physically present. Someone who had begun to take Lily's presence for granted, to assume she would always be there, always understanding, always waiting for me to finish one more project, attend one more meeting, secure one more client. 2 months ago, I found a letter while cleaning out the desk we'd shared, sealed in an envelope with my name written in Lily's elegant handwriting, tucked inside a book on her side of the bookshelf. With trembling hands, I opened it. "My dearest Thomas," it began, "if you're reading this, then I found the courage to tell you about my diagnosis, and we're facing this journey together. Or perhaps I didn't find that courage in time, and you're discovering this letter after I'm gone. Either way, there are things I need you to know. First, I forgive you for not noticing the signs sooner. I became very good at hiding them, rescheduling my appointments for when you were in meetings, explaining away my fatigue as work stress, taking my medication when you were in the shower. I told myself I was protecting you, but the truth is I was afraid. Afraid of becoming a patient instead of a partner, afraid of changing the future we'd planned, afraid of seeing my fear reflected in your eyes. Second, these past 5 years have been the happiest of my life. Even these last difficult months haven't dimmed the joy you've brought me. When I look back at our time together, I don't see the missed dinners or the late nights you spent at work. I see the Sunday mornings making pancakes together, the road trip where we got lost and found that amazing diner in the middle of nowhere. The way you still looked at me sometimes, as if you couldn't believe your luck. Real love isn't about perfection, it's about showing up imperfectly again and again. Lastly, if I am gone as you read this, please don't spend too long waiting for a different ending to our story. Don't punish yourself with what-ifs. Don't let regret become your constant companion. Whatever happened in our final days together, know that I left this world having been deeply loved, and that is more than many people ever experience. Live fully, Thomas. For both of us now, all my love, always, Lily. I read the letter a dozen times, then a dozen more, tears blurring the words I was already committing to memory, her forgiveness so freely given. Her perspective on our relationship, so different from the harsh judgments I'd been laying on myself. Her final request, not that I wait, but that I live. The contradiction tore at me. How could I honor her wish that I move forward while still feeling that doing so would be another betrayal? How could I stop waiting when waiting felt like the only connection I still had to her? Last month, on what would have been our wedding day, I returned to the place where I'd proposed, a small gazebo in the botanical garden where we'd had our third date. The October day was perfect, exactly the weather we'd hoped for when choosing the date. Golden light filtering through trees, dressed in autumn colors. I brought the ring I'd removed from her finger in the hospital, the one I'd kept in my pocket ever since. Sat on the bench where we'd planned to take wedding photos, closed my eyes and imagined the day unfolding as we'd planned. Lily in the dress that still hung in the back of our closet, me waiting nervously at the altar, friends and family gathered to witness our promises. "I would have waited for you that morning," I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "If I'd known what you were trying to tell me, I would have been late to 1,000 meetings. I would have held you through every fear, every treatment, every moment we had left. I'm so sorry I didn't understand what you were asking." A light breeze stirred the leaves around the gazebo, the only response to my too late promises. As I sat there, lost in regret and imagined futures, an elderly couple entered the garden. They moved slowly, the man supporting his wife with a gentle hand at her elbow. They paused nearby, admiring a late-blooming rose bush. 62 years, I overheard the woman say, and you still rush me through gardens." "If I didn't," the man replied with obvious affection, "we'd never make it home before dark." Their easy banter, the comfortable way they occupied each other's space, the history evident in their simple exchange, it struck me with almost physical force. This was what Lily and I had been building toward. This was what had been stolen from us. This was what I couldn't stop waiting for, even knowing it would never come. The couple noticed me then, perhaps saw the grief I couldn't hide. The woman's expression softened. "Are you all right, young man?" she asked, her voice kind. I couldn't explain, not to strangers, not in this place meant for joy. So I just nodded, managing a small smile. "Beautiful day for a wedding," the man commented, gesturing to the gazebo. "Someone getting married here today?" "No," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. "Not today." They continued their slow circuit of the garden, leaving me alone with thoughts of ceremonies that would never happen, vows never exchanged, years never lived. But something about their brief presence had shifted something inside me. Their 62 years together hadn't been built on grand romantic gestures or perfect understanding. They'd been constructed day by day, through small kindnesses and minor irritations and countless ordinary moments, just as Lily had described in her letter. Real love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up imperfectly again and again. I had failed to show up in our final moment together, had failed to wait when she needed me most. But I had shown up imperfectly for 5 years before that. Had loved her as best I could, with all my flawed humanity, and she had loved me the same way, not for my perfection, but for my persistent presence in her life. That evening, I returned to the apartment and did something I'd been avoiding for months. I opened the wedding invitation samples we'd been considering, the ones still sitting in a folder on the bookshelf. Ran my fingers over the raised lettering, the elegant designs we'd narrowed down to 3 final options. We'd been leaning toward the simplest one: cream paper, black lettering, a single gold leaf motif in the corner. Lily had loved its understated elegance. "It's timeless," she'd said. "Not trendy, just like I hope our marriage will be." I set the invitation on the mantel, propped against a photo of us from last Christmas. Not as a monument to grief, but as a reminder of the future we'd planned with such hope. A future cut short not by my 2 careless words, but by circumstances beyond anyone's control. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider that perhaps the weight I'd assigned to our final exchange was disproportionate. That perhaps my failure in that moment, real as it was, didn't negate everything that had come before. That perhaps Lily's forgiveness, offered so freely in her letter, was something I could eventually extend to myself. 1 week ago, I did something that felt both terrifying and necessary. I returned to work, not to the same position or the same frantic pace, but to a modified role that would allow me to use my skills while maintaining boundaries I now recognized as essential. My boss was surprisingly understanding. "We just want you back in whatever capacity works," he said. "The last year has taught all of us something about priorities." On my first day back, I placed a small framed photo of Lily on my desk. Not the formal portrait from her memorial service, but a candid shot from a hike we'd taken, her face alight with laughter, hair wind-blown, completely unself-conscious in her joy. Colleagues stopped by throughout the day, some awkward in their condolences, others sharing their own stories of loss, a few simply squeezing my shoulder in silent support before continuing on their way. By afternoon, the strangeness of being back had begun to fade, replaced by the familiar rhythm of work, phone calls, emails, meetings. As I walked to the conference room for a team update, I passed the very room where the Johnson meeting had taken place that fateful April morning. I paused in the doorway, the empty room suddenly heavy with significance. This was where I had been rushing to when Lily whispered those final words. This was what I had chosen over her request to wait. "I can't," I had said. Standing there 9 months later, I understood something I had been missing in all my self-recrimination. Those words hadn't just been about a meeting. They'd been about my inability to recognize when life was offering a crucial crossroads. My failure to distinguish between what was urgent and what was important. My habit of postponing meaningful connection for professional advancement. "I can't wait," I had meant. The irony cuts deep. Because waiting is now all I do. Waiting for a key that won't turn in the lock, for a voice that won't call my name, for a presence that exists only in memory and dreams. But perhaps, I realized, as I finally turned away from that empty conference room, there are different kinds of waiting. There is the passive waiting of grief, the suspended animation of a life interrupted, the endless rehearsal of what might have been different, the refusal to move forward because forward means leaving someone behind. And then there is active waiting, the kind that honors what was lost by living fully in its absence, the kind that carries memory not as a burden, but as a guide, the kind that transforms "I can't wait" into "I will carry you with me as I continue." Yesterday was Lily's birthday. I took the day off work, bought her favorite flowers, yellow daisies, nothing exotic, and drove to the coast where we'd spent a weekend for our 3rd anniversary. Sat on the beach as winter sunlight played across the water, watching gulls wheel overhead, listening to the rhythm of waves against sand. "I'm still waiting for you," I told her, speaking aloud as I often do when I'm alone. "But I'm learning to wait differently now, to wait by living, not by standing still." The ocean continued its eternal motion, advancing, retreating, constant, yet ever-changing, indifferent to my grief, yet somehow comforting in its persistence. Last night, I did something I've been meaning to do for months. I contacted the charity Lily had supported, the one dedicated to research for the condition that took her from me too soon. Arranged to establish a small annual scholarship in her name. Nothing grand, but something that might help others facing what she faced. Something that might give meaning to a loss that still feels senseless most days. The director I spoke with asked if I'd be willing to share Lily's story at their fundraising event next spring. My first instinct was to decline, to keep my grief private, to protect the sacredness of our final exchange. But then I remembered Lily's letter. "Live fully, Thomas, for both of us now." "Yes," I said, surprising myself. "I'd be honored to." This morning I woke before dawn and made coffee in the kitchen where Lily had stood on that last morning. Watched the sunrise from the window where she'd leaned, asking me to wait. Allowed myself to feel both the sharp pain of her absence and the gradual softening that comes with time and perspective. I still wait for her in all the ways that count. Still listen for her key in the lock, still reach for her in the night, still save stories to tell her at the end of each day. But I'm learning that waiting doesn't have to mean standing still, that honoring her memory doesn't require freezing at the moment of loss, that perhaps the best way to keep faith with what we shared is to carry it forward, to let it shape but not define the life that continues. "Wait for me," she had whispered. "I can't," I had replied, "but what I've come to understand is that there are many ways to wait, and perhaps the truest waiting isn't about denying the present for a future that won't arrive, but about creating a life worthy of what has been lost, about ensuring that the love we shared continues to matter, continues to shape the world, continues to exist in how I choose to live each day. So I do wait for Lily. Not by standing motionless, trapped in regret, but by moving forward with her memory held close, by living the values she embodied, by loving others with the same generosity she showed me, by recognizing when life is offering important moments that shouldn't be rushed past. And sometimes in the quietest hours of morning, when memory feels most vivid and loss most acute, I allow myself to imagine a different answer to her final request. "Wait for me," she whispers. "Always," I reply. "In all the ways that matter, for all the days I have left, I will wait for you by living a life that honors what we shared. It isn't perfect. It doesn't erase regret or eliminate pain, but it offers a path forward through grief that doesn't require leaving her behind, a way of waiting that might eventually become a way of healing. And while she will never return, this truth still catches in my throat each morning. The love we shared remains, not diminished by time or absence, but transformed into something I can carry forward, something that waits with me, within me, as I learn to live again."